We're here for Trebuchet Con 2015 with an esteemed panel of judges to answer all of your Trebuchet-related questions. Woo! Let's take our first question from the audience.
I was just wondering what the mathematical principles associated with the trebuchet were.
So the mathematical principles related to the trebuchet are all physics related. The whole concept of the trebuchet is based on the law of conservation of energy. As the trebuchet arm is pulled back, the amount of potential energy in the counterweight increases as it's raised higher and higher. Now, when it is released, all this potential energy is then transferred into the projectile in the form of potential energy to raise it from the bottom up to here, and then in kinetic energy to launch it from the sling out to its target.
Let's take a second question from the audience. Did the trebuchet have any social impact?
The trebuchet was very impactful. It was an instrumental weapon during sieges. For example, in 1218, it was used during the siege of Damietta. It was said that the trebuchets could launch payloads over 400 pounds. This affected people socially because whoever had the most advanced war technology most likely had power. This affects us today because whoever had the trebuchet, when it was relevant, had control over society. This affects the balance of power today, with certain countries having more power than others. This balance of power could have been different if it weren't for the trebuchet.
I think we have time for one last question.
I was wondering, does the trebuchet have any impact on the environment?
The trebuchet had a significant impact on the environment at the time it was used. For instance, because of the massive amounts of lumber it required, multitudes of forests across Europe were clear-cut to produce the trebuchets. Additionally, when a castle is bombarded by the trebuchet, it requires to be either repaired or rebuilt entirely, often in a location less susceptible to siege. This added to the demand for clear-cutting, as well as the excavation of minerals, and demand for mining increased as well. Finally, in 1346, a group of Mongols called the Tatar were besieging the city of Kaffa when they were struck with the bubonic plague. While they were weakened, they had a stroke of military genius, and they flung the dead bodies of their army into the city of Kaffa and spread the Black Death into the city. I hope this answers your question.
That's just spectacular. Yet another successful Trebuchet Con. Let's get a round of applause for our panel of esteemed scientists.
Woo!